Ladies and gentlemen, today is a good day for our footy club, as it is my pleasure to announce formally that Don Pyke is the new Senior Coach of the Adelaide Football Club. Don returns to Adelaide, as you all know, having emerged as the standout candidate amongst a high-quality field of coaches over a thorough and exhaustive process that has been conducted over the last couple of months. Thinking about this this morning, I think ours is a unique situation. We're a big footy club in a big football state, operating in some really unique circumstances, and Don comes to us with a similarly unique set of skills, qualities and experiences that he's amassed over nearly 3 decades in football. We found that his presentation and those qualities and experiences compelling, hence our choice. As a player and in business and as a coach, Don's got a strong record of success and achievement. It does seem to follow him where he goes. He's got proven leadership skills, outstanding football intellect. It makes him a perfect fit for our club as we continue on our journey that we've spoken about quite often to deliver the football program and the results that our players, that our coaches, that our staff, importantly that our members and supporters and our partners so desire. So I present Don to you, commend him to you, and as I said, today is a very good day for our football club.
Don, can you work us through the process of how you came to become the Adelaide Football Club coach and why you wanted to become the coach?
Yeah, well, firstly, Michael, it's an honour, and thank you to the board of the Adelaide Footy Club for choosing me in the role of senior coach. I'm excited. I'm energised by the opportunity to work with what is as Andrew said, a unique group. Not often you probably find there's a senior coach changes hands when the side's made the final. So we're in a really good position. We've got a solid playing group. We've got some good coaches, and that's exciting to see how we can improve that going forward. My beliefs in terms of the football side of things is that I want to create an environment whereby we're focused on continual improvement. That's not only our players but our coaches, whereby we're looking to create a place where people come to work, as I said, energised, enthused about the prospects of getting better. It's a tough industry we're in, and we finished 6th last year, and the challenge will be to rise ourselves up the ladder. And to do that, we need hard work, and we need to create an environment which really is about educating our players, and they can improve as we go. What
about the process? How did that play out for you?
The process, and look, I'd say thanks to both the footy clubs I've been involved in through the process. So West Coast were tremendously supportive of me in my desire to pursue a senior role. Adelaide similarly were very supportive of my commitments at West Coast, which it seems a long time ago, but a week ago we were preparing to play a grand final. And I was very grateful for the respect Adelaide showed of my time to be able to stay completely focused on my role at West Coast, and enabled me to finish that before furthering discussions with them this week.
Don, obviously the players are on holiday at the moment. Have you had an opportunity to address them or speak with any of them and talk about your hopes and dreams going forward?
Yeah, I spoke to mainly the senior leadership group last night. I contacted all of them by phone. Also spoke to all the coaches as well. More as just an introduction, say hello, introduce myself. Clearly, you're not going to build a relationship over a 2-minute phone call, but just to say, look, guys, it's been a tough year for the footy club. Most of them, as you said, are on break. Enjoy their break, get their bodies right, get their minds fresh, and let's make sure we come back towards the end of November when we start pre-season training in really good shape and ready to go. We've got a shorter year this year to prepare for. We lose a week both ends, so it's going to be really important that we maximise our time with our training and make sure we make the improvements we need to make to keep on the path to success.
When you talk about being unique, one of the big questions before you is following Phil Walsh. Can you follow him, or do you seek to put your own imprint on the club, your own mantra, and try to close off that legacy?
Yeah, look, I don't think it's about closing off the legacy, Michael. I think it's probably more very respectful of Phil and what he brought to the club. He came in a period where there was change required, and he started that change. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to see that through. But as I said at the start, there's a lot of good things at this footy club, and a lot of those things were started by Phil. And so my challenge is to come in and work with the things which are good, and to try and identify the things which we can still improve further. And so I'll be meeting with coaches and players in coming weeks to discuss how they see the side and how they analyse the end of the season and identify areas we've got to get better. And so we'll build on it from there. Respectful of the past, but we need to move on as a footy club and we need to move into our next era, and that's my responsibility as a leader to drive that.
You've got one assistant coaching post, I think, Darren Milburn, not going to be there next year. Will you bring someone, or will it be a club decision, that one? Or?
It'll be a club decision. I mean, we're on the look now for someone. I'm not in a position to say who we may be targeting or what we're going to do, but clearly that's a role we need to fill and fill quite quickly. And from a coaching viewpoint, want to get someone on board who's got very strong values, good teacher, good educator, and someone who can help in the area of I think it's the backline line coach we're looking for.
John, it's the always question of a coach of what's your philosophy on how the game should be played and what will the Adelaide team look like? How do you answer that one?
Yeah, look, it's difficult to go into specifics, to be honest. My philosophy is pretty much based around playing total football. And that's the three phases of the game, and that's a contested ball, our ball movement, and our team defence. I'm not going to go into the detail of how exactly we'll play, albeit I'll be talking to our coaches about how we see our strengths and weaknesses in those areas, and then we get the opportunity to train that between November and March, and with a firm view from me as to exactly how I'd like the game to be played, but need to understand a little bit about the playing list, a little bit about our players and their strengths and weaknesses as to the best way for us to play. But it'll be around those three fundamental areas.
Do we expect a Crow's web, or do you bring new philosophies to the
We'll certainly discuss the web, as people like to call it. I mean, it's more a system of team defence which West Coast have developed over the time. So it's definitely worth discussion, and it's a good example of how the game changes. The challenge we have as we improve is that everyone else is trying to improve as well. There's only so many spots in finals available, and we found a spot this year. To keep a spot next year, we've got to get better again, and the web would be one thing which, not that we call it the web at West Coast, but it would be one thing we'd have a look at in terms of how our team defence is structured and the best way for us to defend.
When did you get told you got the job done?
Yesterday afternoon. It was yesterday afternoon when we came to agreement on terms and got offered the position, which was was fantastic.
Were the discussions happening throughout the year?
Sorry?
Were the discussions happening throughout the year?
Just so we're clear in terms of the process, I said, I had an initial discussion with Adelaide and some of their coaching subcommittee back in middle of August, I think. And they, as I said, were very respectful of my commitments at West Coast. And as I said to them at the time, I said, look, we've spent 2 years getting West Coast to a point where they're challenging in the finals, and they were very good at allowing me to just stay focused with that. So beyond that, it really was just an interview this week, which was the final piece before the decision was made.
So what we did in terms of the process, mate, we spoke to, identified a range of candidates, a large number of candidates. We narrowed it down to a short list, and we had those informal discussions with each member of that short list. And then we waited until people had concluded their respective campaigns before we spoke to them formally. And said with Don, that happened this week. It was a 4.5-hour grilling earlier this week, and said he emerged as a compelling candidate.
Don, you started coaching, walked away and did a heap of other things, including business. Why did you come back to coaching?
It was something which has always been with me. I mean, I've been involved in footy for probably since I was 5 years old. I've always loved footy. I've been passionate about footy. Stepped away and then came back, and the passion never really disappeared. And that's why I'm thankful to West Coast. They gave me an opportunity 2 years ago to get back involved, and that really ignited my drive and desire to accept this role and challenge for this role. So that's the reason.
Don, in that case, though, if not Adelaide, would it have been somebody else in the near future that you were looking to take over the senior role?
I think for me, and with my background and probably age and skill set, it was probably something which was an aspiration. I'm very mindful of the fact that the opportunities are limited because of the number of clubs that are available. And I agree with Andrew. I think the fit for me here is I've got some history here. I know some of the people here. The quality of the organisation and how it's run made a lot of sense. So it was easy to put my hand up and throw my hat in the ring for this one.
Andrew, clearly a great day for the footy club. You've announced a big bit of news, but there's another big ticket item at the moment with Geelong and Paddy Dangerfield. Have you heard from them, or has an offer been tabled that you've been made aware of?
Rennie, it'd be a disappointing press conference if I wasn't asked about that, so I'm glad that you've raised it. Thank you. Look, as I mentioned to you the other day, those discussions are, they've commenced, obviously. They're progressing. We're hopeful of an outcome that, as I said, I've said on a number of occasions that it's going to be in the best interests of this footy club. And when we're in a position to announce something, we will.
Don, will you have an input on who the club's likely to get and how that's likely to play out in trade week and free agent week?
Yeah, well, that all starts now. I've been in contact with the list manager and also Dave Noble, the head of footy, and I'll probably be over there early next week. Again, it's good to probably finish with the formality. So with that starting, I can start to have some input into that and be talking to players and finalising it. But the reality is, I'll lean pretty heavily on those guys. They're across the list. They're across, what they think they need. So I'll be there to support them as much as anything, rather than tell them go after player A or B.
Don, what's your read on the list?
List-wise, my read is I think it's a very strong list. I'm very comfortable where the list is at. I believe there's opportunities through this draft and through the trade period for us to secure some additional talent, which will go towards helping us even further. The thing I like from a distance, and I don't know the list intricately, I don't know the players intricately because I haven't worked with them, and that will be a significant part of my role initially, is to get to know the players, to get to understand what makes them tick and how they operate, because each player group is different. And once I do that, we'll be in a better position to assess and challenge them accordingly to go down the path of improvement which we're talking about.
How do you improve the side after losing perhaps your best player in Patrick Dangerfield?
Well, my philosophy is based more around the style and the system than the individuals. Okay, we recognise that Patrick's a great player. The reality is he's not going to be here next year. Someone will fill that spot, and we have to be in a position whereby we fill it, because if we're facing a key game or a final and we lose a key player, that doesn't mean we can't win. We have to be better than that. We have to be stronger as a club in terms of our systems and our process to mean that, we lose one soldier, another one stands up. And that's, generally the strength of great teams is that they're very interchangeable with their team. So, which is why our education becomes important. We've got to educate our players to understand the roles and responsibilities they've got, so that we can be not completely subject to having just the star system which relies on talent.
Don, on the big question of the look of the game, are you a coach who leans to win at all costs or win with the game at heart?
I assume you're referring to the aesthetics of the game? Yeah. It's probably more of a philosophical discussion, isn't it? It's not...
Pretty deep in the game at the moment.
It is, yeah. I think it's important that as a coach we recognise the game needs to be attractive to follow. I think with some of the rule changes that are mooted, it's probably likely that may happen with obviously reduction in rotations will have some impact. For me, it's more about the style that we want to play and what we think will be capable of creating winning. And I think jury will be out, but I'm hopeful that will be an attractive style for our members and supporters and people to come along and watch and feel part of.
Expect a few more long sleeve jumpers at the Cross?
What? Do you expect a few more long sleeve jumpers here?
Long sleeve?
Yeah.
You were famous wearing the long sleeves at West Coast?
Oh, look, yeah, I did get a bit of a ribbing about wearing the odd long sleeve jumper. No, I don't. I think this generation's moved on from the long sleeve jumpers. Geez, you got a good memory.
That'll be a photo in tomorrow's paper or something.
What, me in a long sleeve jumper?
Is there anything that still is in your memory of the Adelaide Footy Club that's still relevant today, or do you feel you're starting a new chapter here and what comes from 05, 6 isn't relevant anymore?
Yeah, no, probably not. I mean, there's still a few guys here who remain on the list who were there when I was here previously, but footy clubs they're a bit like a stream. They just sort of meander and work their way down, and we've those years, as disappointing as they were in the finish, we won a lot of games of footy and there was a lot of success in those years. So it probably sits with me in terms of a little bit of disappointment about maybe missed opportunity, but I don't think there's anything really that stays from those years.
Now that you're first time up, do you sense you need that structure of someone else around you? How do you feel about what you've got in the coach's box, whether it's a senior bloke brought in, or are you happy to, like Adam Simpson, to just go on your own limb?
Yeah, look, at this stage we'll have a chat about that with David and with Andrew in terms of what structure we want in place. I guess a little bit different, as Andrew alluded to. My life experiences are a bit different. I've been in boards, I've been in run businesses as well. So I'm fairly comfortable in terms of the management side of things. So it's just going to be vital we get good people. I mean, I'm a great believer in people. If we get good people and we create a good environment, we'll get a result.
What's tougher, sitting on a board choosing a coach like you did, or
Yeah.
being on the other side of the table?
Definitely being on the other side of the table. Yeah. Yeah.
Did it help you, you think?
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. I mean, I was reflecting back on the interview process, which when John Worsfold was selected as coach. And again, that's just part of the learning that you get and the benefit you get of being part of something like that. So that was great experience to be in the room and see the process, and certainly helped me prepare for, as Andrew said, the 4.5 hours.
And
You,
Dom,
you were
do
linked to Carlton earlier in the year. Did you go through any other processes
No.
this year? So this was the only one?
Don, early days, but in terms of the captaincy and where you go forward with the leadership of the team,
Yep.
do you have a philosophy about whether that should change or necessarily keep it as it is?
I haven't given it a great deal of thought, but from what I can gather, Tex Walker has been an outstanding leader of the footy club, and so I'm having difficulty seeing why we'd necessarily want to change that. I think you've got a leadership group that came together last year with a new captain who, in extraordinary circumstances, performed above and beyond. So at this stage, I'm very comfortable with the leadership group and the captaincy.
And Don, you obviously worked right up to the line with West Coast. Will you have any time off, or will you just straight into it?
Look, we're going to have some time off at some point. Obviously, last week was a disappointing week as a West Coast coach, and certainly the players were very flat after that. So it's been a long year, and this process in itself has been made it a long week. So I'll get involved in some of the draft stuff, some of the trade stuff, but I'm looking for an opportunity to grab a week or two where I can freshen up, because it's important. I mean, the balance of people's lives in this role is important, and I recognise that I don't want to be getting to June or July next year and I'm running on fumes.
Don, one of the bits of the process about each side of the table is some of the coaches push back and ask of the club. Were there any questions you had that you felt needed to be answered before you put your hat in this ring?
There are a couple, but nothing which was, I don't think, Andrew, you might recall, but there was nothing there that was a deal breaker from my viewpoint. It was probably more clarifying, just a few bits and pieces from the club, and some of it might have been my impression from outside, which just was clarified, and I was very comfortable with the answers that were provided. So
I think Don appropriately asked of the health of the football club, and we just spoke through the various arms of the club and the status that they currently sit, which as you guys I think know, that the club's in a really healthy shape. So otherwise, I think after 4.5 hours of fairly interactive discussion, Don had a pretty good appreciation of where we're at.
Did you feel the need to ask about the last 3 months and what it's done to the group and what comes next with that group?
I probably didn't directly ask that question, but I certainly asked around how people felt that had been it's not really finalised, but how that felt people that they'd come about. And to be honest, there's no real answer to that, because that process in itself is unique for each individual. So I'm respectful of that. I'm respectful that probably now that the players are having an opportunity to reflect, and the coaches are having an opportunity to reflect, and that's why this time's important for them. So they come back and we're ready to go, and we're actually able to move on from that. But I think the way that the players and the coaches responded and handled themselves in that last period of time says a lot about them, and so I'm very comfortable.
Did you ask James what he would think if you came to Adelaide and became coach?
You're talking about my brother? Yeah, I spoke to my brother. Yeah, and he's very supportive, and always has been.
Could you just clarify when and where the final presentation was to the selection panel?
Yeah, mate, it was in Brisbane earlier this week.